and all that. But this morning I want to take a moment and have a very special guest come and share her testimony with you. She was with us this weekend. Her name is Jessica Neely. And I wanted to introduce her because her and I go way back. I think it was 2002 that Jessica was a youth pastor at a church in Colorado. And some of you have heard of a man named Dean Nifratis. So Dean Nifratis said, Rachel and Jeremiah, that's my husband, you guys need to go to this church and serve and help them however they need help. And when we were there, Jessica was the youth pastor. And so we knew her and we helped her out. And a few months later, we got our own youth group in California. We moved to California. And Jessica went her own way and we went our own way. And about 12 years later, someone said, hey, you need to have Jessica come and speak at your conferences. And I was like, really? Jessica Neely? Where's she been all these years? And they're like, oh, you'll probably want to find out. So Jessica and Corey are going to come and tell us where Jessica was all those years and give us her testimony, what God has done in her life. So welcome Jessica and Corey this morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, church.
Hello, I'm Corey. I'm Jessica's shadow.
She's my Jiminy Cricket. She's my consciousness being my guide.
Yes, I keep her on track.
Yes.
So we are going to do this interview style, and I'm going to interview Jessica, and she's going to go through her testimony, and I'm just going to dig into some of the things we were all wondering. So Jessica, where did you grow up?
Cedar Edge, Colorado. It wasn't 14 miles from one errand to another.
Yeah. We just got to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
It's flat here. Did you know that? We're looking for the mountains, and there aren't any.
we were looking for T-Mobile to be exact.
There aren't any of that either.
We gave the car back to the pastor. Sorry, no gas.
1,000 miles.
3 errands, no gas.
So Jessica, you grew up in Cedar Edge.
Cedar Edge, Colorado.
AG girl.
Absolutely.
Parents.
Totally. Still have those.
So good girl. You went to Master's Commission.
Master's Commission. It's it's Bible college for those with ADHD. They can't do the 4 years, so they do the 2 years on the road.
Slam it down.
Yeah, we
Good. Where was Master's Commission?
all over the United States, but based out of Denver. It was called Power Invasion Ministry. So back in we had Tommy Tenney and the God Chasers and and the Brownsville Revival.
Right.
And if you
Spin
can,
the light.
graduation was raising the dead back to life. Yeah, if you can't do it, no graduation.
So did you pass?
Obviously.
You raised someone from the dead?
Well,
Okay. Spiritually, we raised them from the dead.
Oh, God definitely
Yes.
raised Jessica from the dead in 2013. That was a good
Thank
one.
you, Jesus. So then, after Master's Commission, you got a youth group?
I did. I was full-time ministry in Brighton, Colorado, and after they hired me full-time, they said, what, you're 19? I'm sorry, we thought you went to 4 years of Bible college. Okay. So no, full-time ministry at the age of 19 in Denver, then on to a church plant in Estes Park, Colorado. And
Tell us a little bit about-
where magic happened.
We need a little high school. Were you boy crazy?
Not at all. I was 5'10", so that kind of eliminates the tall girls know that we have little privilege in being boy crazy unless we like to chase midgets. So no, I was the failure at basketball and volleyball. Like there's a 5-second delay between my fingers. I'm like, ball. Okay. So I failed everything. So I was like the activist, like True Love Waits, back when being abstinent was in style, and but we're bringing it back again.
Yes.
Yeah,
We are bringing it back.
We are bringing abstinent back again.
Because
Yes.
as you can see on the video we watched, girls are not
Absolutely.
understanding what abstinence is.
So no, I was always following a movement, doing a movement, abortion. I was huge into the pro-life. That was me. I was like, I'm a teenager, and I guess I listened to a few sermons where they're like, you can do it, and I was like, I can do it. So I was completely believing in the power of a living God. I believed that live for something or fall for anything. Like I had a protest for anything. I was all things but a tree hugger.
No,
And
no.
vegan, and I wasn't gluten-free, and I didn't have a peanut allergy. So your stereotypes of Colorado.
She does not do any of the stereotypes.
Right, I do carbs.
So you activist, Jesus lover, freak. You're fighting for a cause.
Right.
So then you're working at Estes Park at a hotel?
Yeah, the Dumb and Dumber, the Shining Hotel, the Stanley Hotel.
Yes.
And it was Easter Sunday back in 2003 or 4, give or take a year.
What happened?
I was violently raped in a parking lot, and that was 3 days before I was to speak at a purity conference at the YMCA of the Rockies. So yeah, this week we talked about what consent is, whether they consent to clean their room or they don't, or taking a shower. So
Rape is not consent.
rape is definitely not consent, and I did not believe that a raped girl can be in ministry. I believed a certain girl gets raped. I believe short skirts means you get raped, and high heels, and flirtatious, and I had a stereotype of the girl that gets raped in my head, and as I'm laying there on the asphalt, I was like, I am not the girl that gets raped. This is not how I plan life. I did not know anything about PTSD and trauma. I did not know about the rewiring of the brain and sexual trauma. And I did not sign up for this. And that is what my mind just went off the cliff on that Easter.
So it was Easter Sunday, and then by Wednesday you're supposed to be speaking at a purity conference.
Yes, I was speaking at a purity conference. I promise you, I was standing and urinating on myself. My hair was falling out. I was stuttering, and it was like born and raised in ministry, and the show must go on. And after that Wednesday, I was like, this is back before phones, and we didn't have the Strong's Concordance here. We actually had to pay $40 for it. And I just remember throwing away my seminary books, my Assemblies of God books, and just throwing it all away. And there's my dollhouse, not throwing like everything of my entire life away because nothing matters. I'm not a pure girl. I can't be in ministry. I can't take stages. I can't talk about...
Who did you tell?
I told my next door neighbor. And then she's like, you're kidding, right? But she saw my face. My face was mauled. And then I went to Oklahoma City. Like, I was just trying to run away from me.
Right.
Like, what do you do now when your entire life has been like, I was going to run focus on the family when Dr. James Dobson died. Like, then I found out you need to be like a doctor. Oops.
Not master's commission.
Yeah, not master's commission.
So what happened to your rapist? How did they ever find him?
Well, whenever I found his legal name and whatnot, I found out that eventually he was murdered, but his rap sheet started the second he turned 18, and I did not report him, but somebody did. I didn't know the bells and whistles. Like, nobody teaches us youth pastors how to report something, or don't take a shower, or, this is how you go through the legal process. I didn't know, but there was at least 3 girls that had reported him by the time I got to his criminal record.
So now that you have this trauma, you're not in the ministry, you're trying to pick up pieces. So what were you going to do? What was your life going to be?
Well, I went to Colorado Springs because the Assemblies of God have their own counselors. I know, believe it or not, sometimes pastors and counselors. We don't always walk on water. I'm not we anymore, but just kidding. So I know I went to a counseling session, and they're like 45 minutes, ding, and I was like, and I'm still not fixed. I'm not fixed after 45 minutes? Wait, you can't cast this out at an altar call or something? Can't put some anointing gallons on me and make this all go away? And so I just, I was angry that I wasn't fixed. I was angry at why does God take care of my parents, and this is how God treats me, and I'm fasting, and I'm praying, and I'm doing all the right Christian things, and I'm God's best soldier, and this is how you treat me? And so I was angry at my parents, like, why do they wake up and they just walk in blessing, and I'm like the youth pastor that he forgot about on the back hill of Estes Park. And I spun out of control, and I went into a sex addiction. If you look at anorexia, bulimia, cutting, alcoholism, or any kind of addiction, it's a trauma that's lying underneath that. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to be an alcoholic. So, or I'm going to be bulimic or OCD. I have to control my space because there was a time in my life that was not in my control and in my power, but yet we live life and now with not by my mind, not by my power, but by the Spirit of the living God, one day at a time. So, no, I spun out in a sex addiction. Then I was walking outside of a restaurant and I saw an independent magazine like you do as you go out the door. Picked it up and I saw the massage parlors, I saw the escort ads, and I was like, I'm not pretty enough to be an escort. Went into, called a few escort agencies, started working right away because I guess they're not really picky. I'm just being honest. And and I started working. I took over a pornography site back whenever people paid for pornography, and I just went full blown. But my thing was what we call female empowerment. I'm gonna let that word sit there. Is that I was trying to make men pay for what they took from me. And I found my sisterhood in strippers and girls at Hooters and girls in the sex industry and other escorts, is that we were all under this banner called female empowerment, and it's the biggest lie and scandal of mental insanity of making men pay for what they took from me. Female empowerment is lifting my fellow sister up into her calling, Female empowerment is not selfish and spinning out in trauma. So no, I spun out in my trauma until 2008, and then my parents found out about my double life. And just like those who are caught up in addiction, I thought I could have my cake and eat it too. How many have been there? You think you can put on a little angel face over here, a little over here? That was me. I was trying to live both lives. And my first journal entry as an escort was, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his very soul? Because I knew I had the car and the plastic surgery and all of this, and I was still shaking angry at night, like watching the phone vibrate across the counter, and I would just scream and cry, when have they paid? When have they paid enough? How much plastic surgery? How much shoes and purses and how much stuff until men pay?
So you get into escorting, but did you get to Hollywood ever?
Is this for me?
It's for anybody who
Amen.
wants a drink. It's living water.
Thank you, Jesus.
So I had, I came from ministry where teamwork makes the dream work. You think I'm going to spill this on the microphone like I'm on a sermon illustration the other day. Okay.
I got your back.
Oh.
Your front.
So, I had teamwork makes the dream work. I called up all the high-end girls in Denver, and I was like, hey, let's all work out of the same apartment. So I had a brothel before I knew what one was. And one came from Hollywood to Colorado to be normal, which what I would do in 2011. But she said, I'll take you to Hollywood. We'll sign you onto a pornography contract. And that's exactly what I did. I learned that Hollywood is the boulevard of broken dreams. Any girl who said, I'm going to be back in a month, I was trained up under a pornography producer, a porn agent's wife, that you go ahead and you tell them they're going to be back. They're never coming back to Hollywood. They're going to go back to Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Ohio. They're going to come back here and say, I'm famous. That will make my escort and my stripping rate go up. And the buyers on Yelp are telling you, there's a Yelp for sex buyers, and they're saying, well, you're no longer 1,600, you're this. And so the girl with this false rate in her head, I had a false rate in my head for 10 years. And she's like, no, I'm this, this is my value, more scenes, I'll take more violence, I'll do more scenes, you can beat me up. Do you know that the MasterCard and Visa has the girls say on camera that they want this? This is the American subclass culture where Asia has sold their girls into the sex industry. So has the United States of America. So when I was on porn sets and when I was at pornography agents, who's driving the girls to those agents? Their mothers. We are no different. If you watch the documentary Nefarious, the American culture says it's okay to work at Hooters and strip clubs, and it's okay. why is it okay? Why is she working there? Because in her mind, that's the best glorified choice that she had.
So
Oh, I can
you
go
were,
on.
you were in this. Like
In
we
it.
said, she's an activist, so she didn't dabble. She
Right.
was all in it. She's in Hollywood. She's in the porn industry. She's dating a porn producer. You're all.
It was my culture. It was my culture to eat up, spit you out, and leave you by. Your girls are left on corners all the time. Girls are trafficked. On my flight here, I was arguing with women, and when I'm battling for taking down the porn industry, do you know who stands up in those hearings against me? Is women, and I'm like, what? Women are saying, what? Pornography and human trafficking have nothing to do with each other. And I'm like, behind every girl there was a suitcase pimp. According to the FBI and Homeland Security, that's called a Romeo trafficker. You're watching trafficked victims. I can't find T-Mobile, but somebody found 168 girls working in these two counties. Who's buying them? The men of these counties. Where are they? At Walmart, Kmart. I ran a brothel and my girls were like, well, he's a school teacher. He can't afford this. And I said, that, my young lady, is what addiction looks like. It's my first time Monday, and by Friday, they're back. I can't afford this. I know they can't afford this. This is what I'm fighting in our state capitals, is pornography be declared a national health care crisis, and it is in 5 states as of Wednesday. And I have the biggest hearing of my life on Wednesday.
So pray for her.
Yes, freaking out. I'm not freaking out.
No, not at all. Nobody saw that. So you're all in this. You've dropped your God card, but somewhere God is still. You're still relationship with God. You still
The
think
hounds
about
of
God.
heaven raise up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they'll never depart from it. The Holy Spirit baptism that I received in 3rd grade, that God of my salvation that told me that Princess Diana died in a tunnel a week before she was to die, like I was anointed and filled with a real God filled me in 3rd grade. That God never left my side. That God pursued me on airlines. I would be so drunk as a skunk and say, let me guess, you're a Christian. God always put Christians around me that would minister to me on every airplane, no matter how drunk I was. They never gave up on me. God is faithful. And I would sit in bathrooms with my other escort friends who were raised in church, and I would sing, my deliverer is coming. I'd sing Rich Mullins songs from the 90s because that's the God I used to know. As I would say, if you call out on the name of the Lord, he will save you. And I believed it. But I never knew my salvation was going to come by looking at 30 years in prison for human trafficking.
What?
What? Record scratch.
What just happened?
In the end of me, in Hollywood, I'd seen HIV cover-ups, and these are my friends, these are my families doing HIV cover-ups. We're all in one database we're all tested, and I'm seeing cover-ups, I'm seeing murders, I see people's heads go through windshields and no cops get called, I'm seeing like rapes happen, and I'm calling my publicist, what should I do? He's like, get out of there. I'm like, I have no idea the animal show that I am watching, and I'm like, this is Skid Row with Bentleys in Hollywood and in Manhattan, and I'm seeing so much. No humans are involved in any of this. I'm seeing the destruction of humanity. And then in 2011, I'm like shipping my car to Colorado, and I'm sitting in the Burbank airport, and I'm rocking back and forth like a crazy person going, I just want to be normal. I just want to be normal. I just want to be normal. And I get back to Colorado, and do you know what? When those who are leaving the sex industry that I'm working every day to take down, the normalcy does not make sense to us. Go flip a burger? Well, my bills are $5,000 a month. Like, what do you mean go flip a burger? But my value had to be restored before I can go flip a burger. God sat me over a year with credit card receipts delivering pizza going, God, they didn't think I was worth $1. They gave me $1 and I spent 45 minutes stuck in the snow. Like, I'm like, the God of the God that we serve had to restore me back to sanity, which I'm still going back and forth on.
Getting there.
But
Good for her.
he had to restore my value. And I said, did you forget about me? He said, no, because I'm taking you into a world where people struggle with their worth and their value and their paychecks every single day. Is this all I'm worth, God? And he's like, no, that's what you're worth. And you don't have to live in it every single day till you're 50 and 60. Why have you waited so long to take this to the foot of the cross?
So how did you get out?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was 2013. And
Flip a switch.
flip a switch. 2013, I was in Colorado after 3 failed suicide attempts. The sex buyers were like, why don't you duplicate yourself, and why don't you bring on, you have perfect reviews, why don't you bring in girls who have perfect reviews, and why do you have the most perfect reviewed escorts? Do you understand? We're like pizza. Like when I'm saying reviews and escorts, it's like ordering a product, but this is the product that the porn industry made. This is not the 1990s where you have to go to Uncle Larry's to go find a porno. Our brains are being rewired so fast that it's being acted out on girls so fast. Can't treat her like a tool, must do this like a tool. Like the brain is rewired so that the light is going tool, that they have to take it out and buy a girl. Well, that's always going to be around. Well, that's what they said about slavery in the beginning. So 2013, had a brothel, told girls you're going to make $30,000 in your first month, and then I have to take you on the I-70 corridor, and I'll take you on the road because save your money. I was like their big sister, buying them journals. I still have mine. Buying them journals, doing yoga and New Age around the waterfall. I was like a youth pastor to a brothel. And, God will take your gifts, and now I'm back onto my God hustle. Like, you got your sin hustle. I'm like, God, give me wisdom to make this, switch that gear. So in 2013, I was working for the Vice, the Denver Vice cops, and I was going to take down like a Heidi Fleiss over our nation's websites.
Wait, how'd you get working with the cops?
Because I'm vindictive. Or I was vindictive. I'm really nice now.
Yes. As you can
I'm
tell.
not vindictive as I take down the porn industry. I was like, wait a minute.
So you're in Denver, you're leading yoga.
Yeah, by the little waterfall. We're going to open our day with yoga before the clients get here.
And then the cops ask you to help.
No, I had not
Software.
heard from the cops for about 4 or 5 months. I was just signing on to a bigger place, and I just know that keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So I went in there wearing a fur coat, big hat, big LA sunglasses, because I had my look thing going, real incognito, right? And
As she is today, too.
porn, take it down. My porn shirts.
Yes.
Yes. So Wonder Woman, right? So I go in to take down this like Heidi Fleiss and throw them a bone, because as I'm firing girls for being late, they're going to get registered on these websites, and they're asked, who's your reference? They're like, well, Jessica, but let me tell you, she's working for Vice. So they're like, well, we're about to kick Jessica off all our websites. So I go to take her down, and the room filled up with detectives, and the case on the table was nobody's but mine. I was taking out ads in the paper, like full page, like ads. And I was huge onto social media, making my lifestyle look really seductive. I was the social media madam. That's how I found girls, groomed girls. I went after those who'd been sexually molested. How do I know that? Is because that's how they're telling me via their posts that they are finding validation is through their sexuality. So
Was there anybody key that helped you get out of this industry?
oh, it could have been Pastor Dan.
Oh, Pastor Dan.
Pastor Dan, I went that Saturday night, and I'm like, Pastor Dan, I'm looking at prison time, and he's like, God will help us. And I was like, no, like he's helped us thus far. So I went onto the oil fields, and I went on the oil fields. If you look up trauma bonding or Stockholm Syndrome, the girls who were working with me were like, we're coming with you. And I'm like, my phones are tapped because I'm a dum-dum. But I'm like, I can't take your money, but I'll teach you how to screen clients and get through this. I have to go get saved. I did. I told them, I was like, I have to go into a program, and hopefully there's something better than Teen Challenge. And because I was like, is Teen Challenge it? I didn't know that there was human trafficking recoveries. And fortunately, I found one, and I slept on the floor of 1,200 square feet with 9 girls in the house, and slept on the floor for 2.5 months till the bed opened up.
But when you bailed, Pastor Dan comes
Pastor
to help
Dan.
you bail. And what happened to all your apartment? Your
I
brothel?
threw away everything. I had Wonder Woman boots, so that's why when she greeted me on Wednesday, I was like,
She goes,
"Thanks for
are those
reminding
mine?
me of my Wonder Woman boots." I threw down her trash chute. It was all backing up, and there's like fishnet tights, and I'm like, ah! Pastor Dan's coming to help me move. I have to move it all down a trash chute. I have nothing, Pastor Dan, but a chair. So, so no, I had an old RAV4 with 25 miles on it. Came up to the top of the parking garage. I had a brand new note, said, "Seeing that this hasn't moved, we'll buy it cash." The guy was there in 45 minutes, and he was there within 45 minutes. I said, "You want to test drive it?" He's like, "Any girl who's selling a car with her pastor, I trust you," because I was like, 5 flights of parking garage. Go right ahead, test drive it. The wheels might come off, but
So now wait.
he helped me with everything.
You wanted to get out because A, they wanted you, or B, it's a horrible lifestyle.
It was a foxhole religion. I was like, only behind bars I knew was a gated community. So I was like, whatever I can do to get into a program.
Why are they taking you to jail?
It was a scare tactic of human trafficking, but with the FBI and Homeland Security, they now have modified so that they don't have to be burdened by those coming out of the sex industry, that if you're over the age of 18, you're no longer a trafficking victim because you chose that life. So it was a scare tactic, but it got me. I got pimping.
So were you a human trafficker?
I was a madam. Yes. I was a madam, which is different than human trafficking. Because they could see that there would be no force, fraud, or coercion, that it was by their choice that those women joined me.
But do women ever really choose that lifestyle?
They think that it's the best choice they have, and when we have on Showtime and on our mainstream TV, we always are bringing glory to the high-end escort, so they thought this is a viable option because it's
So most women going into this culture... Most women going into the industry, yeah, you should have a drink, are coming from a trauma, some sort of...
Absolutely. If you watch my hearings on my Facebook, every time that I'm in a hearing trying to shut down the pornography industry, I'm saying that how the United States of America is profiting off of our mental disorders, our mental trauma dysfunctions. My PTSD mental health care costs are near $1 million in 3 years. Who has been carrying that weight and burden? Nonprofits. So it's like government, you pay now or you pay later, but you are financing going through an insane asylum, handing girls checks like, "Thanks for acting insane, thanks for acting insane," and pornography is handing a plastic trophy to the girl who can endure the most insanity.
So girls going into this industry more than will have had some sort of molestation, a rape,
disassociation.
They don't know how to deal.
If you look at even starting with Hooters or strippers or Twin Peaks or whatever, Tilted Kilt, whatever, there's a disassociation that starts happening in a woman's brain where she has to be one person when she walks into that place and one person when she goes home. And then she can only do that for so long, stripping, whatever. It's the start of what looks like multiple personality disorder is disassociation. So she has to start numbing out so that she can put the buffer between her and the reality. Well, when you are in the sex industry, what men are buying, they're not paying for sex, they're paying for consent. Let me use that word, consent. So your body and your mind can only endure 8 to 10, 12 rapes a day for how many years? You're going to be a little messed up in the head. And it only takes the power of the living God can get me out of this tunnel.
Right. So, God has restored. Renewed.
Oh, he's working on it, dude. It's like every day. Oh, don't even think this project's fixed.
But it's better than it was.
No, it is better than it was.
Believe it or not. So now, this day we are working on a cause, and we're living for Jesus. We're focused.
We are trying to stay focused. I went 4 days without my medication, which has been fun. I'm like, focus, vitamin B, adrenaline glands.
Right.
Yep.
And that is a little bit of Jessica,
Yep.
not the whole thing. And that's our time.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Like I said, the porn t-shirts keep me on the road. Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is Pastor Rachel.
So, my story is like 2 seconds. Oops. Okay. I'm going to come out here, though. I think I can see you guys better. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this whole weekend up with a message, and it won't be too long, I promise. Because I know, are we done with church now? No, don't be done with church now. Okay, you don't really get mentally hungry until 12, so I've got a couple minutes. So I want to bring you the word to bring what she's saying into focus for how that applies to you, okay, to you and to me. And I'm going to do that by reading in Titus, the book of Titus. How many of you have ever read the book of Titus? Right? Is it your favorite book? Probably not. Not too many people read too much in Titus. But Titus is an amazing book when we're talking about the subjects that Jessica is talking about. So just to give you a smidgen of a background, Titus is Paul, the Apostle Paul, Paul's son in the faith. So this book was written to Titus. Now, Titus was on the island of Crete. You guys have heard that island, right? Heard of that? So Titus is on the island of Crete, and Paul is now writing him a letter telling him how to set up his church and his ministry on the island of Crete. It wasn't just one church. He was a bishop over the whole island. Okay, he might be called a overseer. Today we call him a district superintendent, like a district leader. So he had other people under him that he was teaching and training. And this is what he has to say in chapter 2 of Titus. So this is Paul, Apostle Paul, speaking to Titus, who's on the Isle of Crete, and he's helping him to set up his ministry there. He says, "But as for you, Titus, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. Likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded, in all things showing yourself to be a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing integrity, reverence, incorruptibility, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that one who is an opponent may be ashamed, having nothing evil to say about you." So when we think of the stories like Jessica and the stories that we hear about this weekend, and we read this verse, I think of one line, and that is, true ministry is messy. Okay, when I see your church, I'm like, wow, the church is perfect, and the people are cute and adorable, and we've got a great lawn, da da da. But in reality, ministry is messy, right? It looks all good and on the outside, but I know when I begin to talk to individual people that they're like Jessica, their lives are messed up, and they're crying out and looking for something to help them. And in this verse, in this section of verses, Paul is telling Titus, hey, listen, we need to get out your older men and get them together and give them a little lesson. And then get your older women together and give them a little lesson. And what is that lesson? That the older men are to teach the younger men. That the older women are to teach the younger women. And so I want to give you a couple things to help you mentally. If someone like Jessica had walked in to your church and you didn't know who she was and began to hear her story, how would you have treated her? Think about that. Jessica sent out over 300 emails. 300 emails to churches when she was trying to get out. And not one church responded to help her. Eventually, yes, Pastor Dan came to her rescue and the church came in and helped her. So I want to ask you guys, is it okay for people to come into your church that are different? Is it okay for people to come into your church that maybe they're dressed in black? Are they welcome here? Or do we say, oh, we don't do that in our church. We don't dress like that. What if they have a tattoo? How are we going to treat them? And I was thinking about our church as I was writing this message. In our church, you're going to think we're a bunch of wackos by the time I get done telling you about it, but we have 4 people in our church. 4. And I want you to remind you that I've grown up, I'm the stamp of AG. I should get a tattoo of the Assemblies of God on my head. Okay? I grew up in the Assemblies of God. I've been an Honor Star. I'm a Bible college graduate. I'm an ordained minister with the Assemblies of God. My husband and I are Assemblies of God missionaries, pastors. We've been with the Assemblies of God for through and through and through. Okay, got it? So I've been in this thing for a long time. But in the last year in our church, there are 4 homosexual people in our church. I have never seen this in my life. I'm just like, what? So we have a transgender guy who, I guess he dresses like a girl sometimes. I don't know, but he comes in. He creeps me out because he'll have a hood on. He'll film me, under his hood. You're just like, what is going on right now? We have a young lady in our youth group who before our eyes changed from a young woman into looks like a boy. We have another young lady in our youth group who just in the last couple of weeks, her parents came to me and said, my daughter has a girlfriend. What are we going to do about it? We began to counsel her now. And there's also another young man who, I don't even know how he got to our church. He loves our church. He's like, I want to get involved. And he's meeting with my husband. And my husband's like, what's your situation? Well, I'm gay. And you're just like, okay, well, you can't be in leadership then, but you can come here. And so my husband's been meeting with him and having dinners with him and loving him. But the thing I want to tell you is ministry is messy, right? When that begins to happen in your church, that, like Jessica's story, that doesn't fit in the box. I've been in the Assemblies of God for a long time, and that doesn't fit in my box. I've never had to deal with that in my life. But I want to give you a testimony side of this. That the young girl in our youth group named Justina, who was, we saw her, she was, so my girls, when we came to Ogden, we've been there for almost 6 years. When we came, my girls were about 9 years old, and Justina was also 9 years old. So we watched her change from this adorable girl with blonde hair. She cut her hair, it's short, she wears boys' clothes, boys' swimming suits, everything you would not know. And we have a struggle everywhere we go. They're like, get that boy out of here. We're like, it's not a boy, she's a girl. But just 2 weeks ago, one week ago, in our youth group, she came to our youth group. This is Brittany, who does our youth. And she came to Brittany and she said, you know what? I wasn't going to come to youth group tonight, but something just got me out of bed and got me here. And I'm going to put my cigarettes away and my razors. I'm like, what are razors for? Right? I'm like so naive. What are razors for? Cutting. Cigarettes, cutting, dressing like a boy. And Brittany said to her, well, you know, Justina, as you begin to surrender to God, things on the outside are going to be reflecting what's going on the inside. And so I sent a note to our deacons. I said, deacons, I want you to be prepared to watch her change from a boy to a girl. But here's what I want you to get. It's been 5.5 years that she has come to our youth group. I just want to say to Brittany, just praise her because she didn't condemn her. We loved her. And she is responding because of love. We never said, Justina, that is so wrong, that is, get away from, I never said, get away from my girls, right? Look at my own girls, I'm just like, I said, girls, you love her. You love her. And you know what? Just like Jessica, God has never stopped pursuing Justina. Never stopped. And so I want to challenge us when people come in and they look different than us. And I just believe that you're going to have young people coming in here, and they're going to be dressed in black. And I want to challenge you, when you see someone, dressed in black or something you don't understand, just like you heard Jessica's story, instead of being like, why do they dress like that? They're so cold. That is just weird. No, you should say, they need healing. There is something broken, and they need healing. Because what we learn when we do these conferences and all the research that I get to do in the background is that, I'm not going to say 100%, people say 100%, but 99% of prostitutes, escorts, porn stars, these girls that are trafficked, 99% of them have been molested and raped. Jessica said there's like this eye contact thing that happens between them. They're like, when did it happen to you? And also you can say the same thing about the homosexual community. So instead of seeing all these marchers, oh, we want our rights, you should see people that need the love of Christ. You should say, wow, you are welcome in our church because I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I want to love you to get to the bottom of this and say there's a God named Jesus who can heal that. We had another man when we were in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he was a very homosexual man for many, 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 many years. And he said the second that he decided to get out, he said all of his homosexual friends just ditched him. Because it's about we only accept you if you're homosexual. And he said, I began to see the love of the church. And I said, I want that kind of love. And sure enough, when he left the homosexual lifestyle, they were so mean to him. And he said, I want the love of the church. And so I look around the audience today. I know we had more girls here yesterday. But I want you guys to be the ones that will welcome people that look different than you. When they come into your doors, it shouldn't be, well, what's wrong with them? Or even let's just go with a real hot topic because I'm a pastor from another church. I can just say this. Let's talk about music. Where's Pastor Ronnie? I'm just going to say this for him since he'll get creamed. What if their music is different? The music yesterday was not the music we had today. And I want to say that because I read a book by Axl Rose. Who's ever heard of Axl Rose? Right? You know where Axl Rose grew up? In the church. And the church said, we don't want that music here. And he said, fine, I'll go where they want my music. Listen, I was preparing this message. I thought, you know what? I'm not a teenager, and I'm not an old person. I'm right in the middle. And so I said, God, just let me be the bridge then today. Right? I'm 42 years old. I'm not ashamed of that. So I'm like, you know, I'm not young. Been in the Assemblies of God for 42 years. And I'm not 85. So I'm standing in the middle of two generations saying, look at these young people. They're growing up without dads. They're growing up in divorced homes. They're growing up with, sex stuff everywhere. And so the older people, we condemn them. What's wrong with those young people? They got to listen to that music. What's wrong with those young people? Look how they dress. Look at those. What does Titus say? Teach them. And you can only teach them when you love them. You can't lecture them. Brittany never lectured Justina, ever. We loved her. And when Brittany was telling me that, I was like, are you kidding me? This is so unreal, right? It was a love of Christ that worked and is still working and will continue to work in Justina's life. Prostitutes, escorts, porn stars, homosexuals, people that look different than us, all of them are hurting people that have been molested, rejected. And we as the church have an opportunity to love them and to make a difference. Because as we said, 6 girls were rescued out of trafficking. What if Maggie has the opportunity to bring them, Maggie Graff, who works with the Fight to End Exploitation, what if she has the opportunity to bring them to this church? Are they welcome here? Are they welcome? Or are we going to be like, you know what? Bring those girls here. But I'm going to tell you, it's messy. Ministry is messy. And we have a food bank at our church. We open it every Saturday from, I think it's 9 to 12, something like that. We serve over between 60 and 70 families every week in our food bank. And those people come and they bring their stories and they bring their, they ride their bicycles and they come get their food. And you know what? Every Saturday we have an opportunity to minister to people with no teeth, with no cars, just needing food. And there's an opportunity there for us to be like, well, why don't you have a job? Well, what is wrong with you? You're an alcoholic. Oh, that's so horrible. No, ministry is messy. And our job is to love people. Our job is to win them to Christ by teaching them and training them. I want you to look at this again. And I want you to think of if Paul is saying this to you. Older men, be sober, be reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience. The young men, they're looking at pornography. You know why? Because, like we said, it's no longer finding the magazine under the bench in Uncle's garage. It's conveniently on their phone. If you knew, even in this room, how many people were looking at pornography, it would make you sick. But there is a way out through Christ's love. His love is what draws us to repentance. So men, we are to be teachers and sound in faith, in love, in patience, so other people want to come to us. Women, likewise, be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So I just want to say this, because as people that are guests, we always get to say what the pastor doesn't get to say. It says, women, don't be slanderers. You know, there's so many times in the Bible that tells women, stop being slanderers and stop gossiping. Women, sorry, we just have mouths that just take off. And our mouths can destroy these young ladies that are coming to the church to be ministered to. So I was thinking about this. Let me just give you a living example. Little Avery was here earlier. Can you imagine the difference in her life? If women, every time Avery came to church, as she now is going to grow up and she's going to become a young girl, then she's going to become a teenager. If you say something loving to her, instead of judging her every time she comes to the church door. And I can say that because I have 2 daughters. They're the pastor's kids. I just get tired of people picking them apart. What if you love my girls instead? Could they become women of God instead of, the church hates us? Why does the church hate us? Why do we get judged all the time? I was looking at Avery today and I thought, can they love her? Don't tell her her skirt's too short and her makeup's too much. Love her. And say, Avery, you're a woman of God. And what God has inside you, He wants to bring it out. And all this weekend, that's what I tried to tell your girls. Women, sometimes don't you just want to tie your lips shut? Our words can heal and our words can hurt. Or our words can help. And I want this church to be a place where we're not slanderers. And slandering, whatever, slandering, it's an interesting word, can come across as something, I want to be caring for them. I don't want them to listen to that kind of music. I don't want her dressing like that. We need to love instead of slandering. We need to be a place where they're safe and saying, older women, I want you to realize they're looking at you. You are to be an example to these younger girls. Ask yourself, can these young girls come to me and ask me questions? Can they come to me and know that I'm going to love them and give them a word of encouragement? Or they make, that's the crabby old lady, don't go near her. She's always got something bad to tell you. How do we want to be? And I have to watch that myself because I'm a woman. That's why I can say this to you. I have the same thing. Sometimes I say things, I'm like, I can't take it back. I wish I could slip it back up in there. And so we have to train ourselves. The Bible says we have to train ourselves to be godly. No man can tame the tongue. That's why we have to pray in tongues a whole lot, right? By praying in tongues, I can't say anything wrong, So, the way I would like to end this service today, and I don't even know how many there's going to be, and I don't really care, but I want to end this service by giving the older people in the church an opportunity to pray for the younger people. And I thought that would be a good first step for us. And it was so cool to be in the prayer meeting this morning and hear the things that they were praying, because obviously they don't have a clue what we're going to talk about today. But the man, and I don't know who it was, the man that said, break up the fallow ground of our hearts. And that's true. God wants to break up that ground because we get hard. And we get, as church people, I know it's frustrating and things get frustrating. We just let our heart gets so hard. Like I told the girls this week, it's like a moment, like Esther, a moment with the king can change everything. Esther's life changed when she had a moment with the king. And I want you guys this morning to have a moment with the king where you say, God, soften my heart. God, when I watch Fox TV and I see those people protesting, I hate them. right? God, soften my heart. God, show me how you see them. Show me the hurt in their lives so I can love them instead of hate them. And I think this morning that's the message that God wants us to get. I want to love them. Help me to love those I don't understand. Help me to love the young people. As I stand as a gap between the older generation and the younger generation, I want us to pull that generation up, especially those in the church. Let's pull them up. And the older people, you have so much knowledge to pour into the younger generation. And they need you, and they're desiring you. So here's what I want to do. I want to have, if you are 18 and younger, and you are a girl, I want you to come on this side. If you are 18 and younger and you are a boy, I want you to come on this side. Okay? So, I don't know how many we have, but let's, I know there's some young ladies that are at the conference this week, so girls on this side, boys on this side, come on up, don't be afraid. Yeah, would everybody stand up? Yep.